Hi, in this video we will review the transformations of functions and we will show specifically how these transformations changes the graph of the function. When it comes to the transformation, specifically the transformations that we are interested in, formations of the functions, there are two different aspects that you can study this transformation. One is that it is done either horizontally or vertically. When it comes to the horizontal transformation, you basically deal with the variable x, the independent variable of the function. However, when it comes to vertical ones, deal with the whole function itself as one piece, deal with the whole function. Well, I can say y. And the other aspect is the type of the transformation. Well, we have at least two different types. One is the translations. Well, we will call them shifts. And the other one is shrinks or stretches. Well, there is another one which can be considered somehow the special case or in the same category as the shrink and stretch, that's reflections. Well, for the translations, we need a number positive. For the shrink and stretches, we need a factor which we take c bigger than 1. And for the reflection, there will be only one possible thing that you will see how that works. Okay. So everything ready now. How does these translations happen? So if we switch all x's to x plus c or x minus c, that will give us the translations. Anytime you add a constant or subtract a constant from x or f of x, that's the translation. So f of x plus c, f of x minus c. Adding or subtracting constant is translation. On the other hand, the shrinking or the stretch is when you multiply x or f of x by a constant. So we can either multiply by that constant or we can divide it by that constant. This gives us the shrink and reflection, but the shrink or stretch. The reflection, however, is just one simple thing. So you either switch x to negative x or f of x to negative f of x. Very nice. So having all these things, now we are ready to see what can we do. I have prepared some graphs here which will help us to see the effect of these transformations on the graph of the function. Okay, so if we switch x to x plus 1, we have first of all horizontal. You can read now from the table. Horizontal shift. That number c says how many units, c units. And then plus minus says to the right or to the left. If it is x plus c, this will be to the left. Well, let's just see how this, it means that just slide the graph of the function c units to the left. So this is c units. From the black uh, graph to the red one. If it is x to x minus c, it is again horizontal because it involves x. It is shift because we are adding or subtracting. C shows the number of units, and being minus subtracted means to the right. So in this case, the graph just slide to the right C units, and this is C units. Well, let me do the vertical one similarly. So we have the x added to a constant, f of x added to a constant. So this is a vertical because we're dealing with the whole f of x. It is shift because it's adding or subtracting. C units upward. So we have to shift the graph upward. So just slide it upward, whatever the C unit is. So this, from this to that, is C units. And f of x to f of x minus c, this is again vertical. It is a shift. It is C units, and this is downward. Okay, so this can be shown here. So just slide the graph C units downward, and that shows you how far you need. So C units going down. You should see that we are the transformation. After the transformation, the graph is in red. Okay, so those were shifts. How about the stretches? Okay, so when you multiply c by x by a constant c, which is bigger than 1, then the function, what the operation would be horizontal shrink, well, by factor of by factor of c. What it means is that, okay, so if I have the graph, shrink it. So everything on the x-axis, 1 will turn to 1 over c. Everything will shrink by factor of c. And what you should remember here is that whatever point we have on y-axis stays the same. So this originally was passing through the origin, now it still stays the same. And when you multiply x by 1 over c, then again it is horizontal, but this time it is a stretch by factor of c. How do we do this one? Well, if this is the graph, you basically stretch it. The reason that I have to do it twice is that the tool I have here is just stretches one side. I have to stretch from both sides. Y-axis stays the same, but we stretch everything in both directions, to left and right. Okay, so let's just go to this other one, f of x turn to c f of x. Then we have vertical. It is, this time it is a stretch. You have to see the difference between the transformation on x and transformation on f of x. This is stretch and by factor of c. And the way it shows itself in the graph is here. So we stretch everything like this. This time the x-axis stays fixed. So you stretch from both sides vertically. And whatever point we have on the x-axis will stay at the same spot. For the other one, this is vertical shrink by factor of c. So this is what will happen. So we shrink. Again, I have to do from both sides because the shrinking tool in my app does it on one side only. And that is how it stays after the transformation. And this point again, in the vertical stretch or shrink, you will have the points on the x-axis fixed, and for the horizontal stretch or shrink, you have on points on the y-axis fixed. Okay, so for the reflection, well, if you do turn x to f minus x, what will happen is that we have a reflection, but it is horizontal. The only mirror we have here is y-axis, so it is about y-axis. Well, I cannot do this by the tools I have to do it by hand here. So it means what? It means that this point here, you find the mirror image of that for every point you have here. So you will have that there. So basically it goes something like goes down, comes up, goes down. And for the other one, also you have reflection about x-axis. So the mirror is x-axis, and then we have mirror image down there. So mirror image up there, and let me just do this by hand again. Something like that. And this gives us the list of the transformations we need to know, and this categorizes things in 2 ways. And if you know this table, basically you know everything you need for this course.